What's up everybody, Better Every Day here, and I wanted to make a quick video about the infamous interview question of tell me about yourself. Now this question will stump a lot of people if you are not prepared, and so that's what this video is about. It's about how to prepare for this question, because if you are not prepared for this question and if you mess up this one, you can basically just kiss the job goodbye, because this is the most important question to get right. Okay, if you get this question right, then the rest of the interview is going to just flow. And the reason is because this is normally the first question they ask you in an interview, and depending on how you answer this question is just going to affect the rest of the interview. Because if you answer it really well, you're going to know it, they're going to know it, you're going to feel good and confident for the rest of the interview. If you stutter and you're over here and you're over there with your answer and you're not feeling comfortable or confident, the rest of the interview is just kind of going to go downhill. Okay, and the reason is because this question really encompasses everything that you need to say in your interview. Now, let me explain, because I'm going to explain this and how to answer this question. So the way you want to answer this question, okay, is, well, first of all, they're not asking, when they say, tell me about yourself, they don't want to know your favorite color. They don't want to know, are you a cat person or a dog person? And they don't exactly want to know just your experience, right? Because they already have your resume. Right, when you applied for the job, you already sent them your resume, I hope, right? So they already have that, and they don't want you to just repeat that either. So what do you do? How do you answer this? How do you prepare for this question? What you need to do is to create a story, okay? Now, where this story should begin should depend on what job you're applying for and your resume. So let me give you an example. So there was a person who I helped get a job. They applied for this job, I believe it was about 3 times. And they failed. Now, for the 3rd time, I was there. No, well, they applied 4 times. 3 times they had failed to get the job. But the 3rd time, I was there with them to see like what was going on. Well, let me talk about the job first. The job they were applying for was an online personal trainer job. When I sat with them through their interview, what I realized is that they were just all over the place with like, oh yeah, I enjoy fit. Like, with the tell me about yourself question, they're like, yeah, I enjoy fitness. I've worked out for a big part of my life. I went to the gym. And yeah, I like to eat healthy, and I think it'd be cool to help other people, and this is a remote job, and that horrible answer, okay? So what I did was I worked with this person, and we came up with a story, all right? And we just kept going over it, and we fine-tuned it to be this amazing story. Let me give you this example. I first asked them, like, okay, well, what was your first experience in training? And that's where we started, right? Because that's their first experience for this job. Why would they start before? They said, tell me about yourself. Why would they start with, oh, well, I was born in this town, and my mom's name is Jill, my dad's name is Brian. They don't care, okay? Start with your first experience. So what we did with this person was, I said, when was your first experience training somebody? How did you get into personal training? Why did you like it? So they told me, oh, well, one day I was at the gym. Somebody said, hey, you look like you know what you're doing. You're kind of fit. Do you mind to teach me a little bit? They said at this point in time, I didn't really have my certificate or anything, but I started training them and I really enjoyed it. And then another person asked me, because they noticed I was training, they're like, oh, are you a personal trainer? But then the gym came to me and says, hey, you can't really be training people here, unless you're certified. Are you certified? And she was like, no. So she ended up getting certified and started working for the gym. And that was her first experience working as a trainer. And then she went on to talk about how, this all tied in with her college, because how this happened at college. So she also got to talk about her college experience and her degrees. So she tied that all in at the beginning of her story. And then she talked about how when she graduated, she still wanted to continue training, but she can no longer do it at this gym because she was no longer a student there. So she moved to another gym. She talked about how COVID happened and how it really took away from the business of, in-person training, and how she really wanted to extend outward to find something that was more flexible and, remote, something she could do from home. And now this is, I really shortened this to how, the specifics and details, but this is just to give you an example of how we designed a story from the beginning. Oh, I was working out, somebody came up to me, and we led this all the way to, and now I'm here. So that's how you want to answer this question. You want to start with the very beginning relevant experience that you have for the job you're applying for. And you want to take a look at your resume and make sure that you're, in track with the dates and the years, that you're not messing anything up, and that you're going in order all the way to how you are sitting in front of the person, whether it's virtual or in person, and you want to bring that all the way back to, and that's how I here today. If you answer this question right, the rest of the interview will be so smooth. Because what happened before that I noticed on the third interview, like I said, when they failed and I was there with them, was that they got asked a lot of questions, a lot. When they answered this question right, the question that we had practiced over and over and over, they almost got no more questions after the tell me about yourself. And the reason why was because they basically answered everything the interviewer needed to know in that interview. After she said, tell me about yourself, she was like, oh, wow. She was like, that's awesome. You're, a perfect fit for this job. And she was looking at her list of other questions. She was like, oh, okay, well, you've already answered this. Because, for example, she was probably going to ask, oh, do you have any experience with online training? She did, because after, when COVID hit, she started training her clients through text message, through Snapchat, through Skype, any way she could, because she couldn't really meet with them in the gym anymore. So that question was out of the way. And I noticed at the interview, after the tell me about yourself, she was already like, yes, you're hired, right? So if you get that question right, you practice that question, you're going to be fine. And that is how you answer. Don't start with where you were born and your favorite color and, I like chicken over steak. No, start with your first relevant experience to the job, all right? And make it kind of a human connection in a way that, this really depends on what job you're applying for. Obviously make it professional, but also make it human. Don't sit there and seem like a robot and just answer in a robotic way, Like, for example, she talked about her human connection with her clients and how, she still wanted to stay in contact with them even when COVID hit, and how that is still relevant to this because of COVID. She still had to, still wanted to train them, and so she did it online, she did it virtually, she did it any way she could, so she has that virtual training experience. Another thing I will say is that when you practice this, you want to keep practicing your story, but I would not recommend practicing word for word, because what's going to happen is if you write yourself a script and you try to memorize this word for word, when you get to your interview, you may be a little nervous, and if you miss one word or you have a little hiccup somewhere, it's going to throw you off, and the rest of your story, you're just kind of going to be lost, right? So don't worry so much about remembering this story word for word. Just remember this event led to this event, which led to this event, which leads me sitting in front of you, right? So your beginning experience led you to this event, which led you to this job, which led you to this, which leads you right back here. You don't want to add any jobs or really any events or stories that have no relevant experience to the job you're applying for. And remember that they are going to ask you other questions, like, for example, like you want to look at the job description, obviously, and try to include all that experience in your story. So that way, after that tell me about yourself question, it's just going to knock out so many other questions. It's going to make the rest of your interview flow so much more. And honestly, once again, I'm going to say it, if you get this part right, you are most likely just going to be hired, okay? So do focus a lot on this question and go over it, rehearse with somebody else, because that's what me and this person did, and it helped them out a lot, because I could just, I could give them an outside perspective. And we just went back and forth. We did this for like 3 days until it was just perfect, until they, and again, they didn't tell the story the exact same each time, but that's fine. As long as you're getting the point across, like I was here, that led me to here, that led me to here, and that's why I'm in front of you now. That's how I'm here now. That's why I'm applying for this job. That's why I want this job. That's how I got here. So that is how you answer that question. Okay? So hope this helped you guys. This has helped me a lot in my interviews, because that question for me was super hard. I didn't know what they wanted. I didn't know, what that question meant or how to really answer it. But after applying for several jobs and then really figuring out what answer they liked and what they didn't, I realized, you just have to tell a really good story about your beginning experience to how you are now sitting in front of them. So there you guys have it. Hope this helped. If it did, please leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe if you want to stay along for this journey. This channel is all about growing and getting better every single day, and that's what we are setting out to do. So thank you guys once again for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.